Hello and welcome to Health Dialogue Show. I am Dr. Bhumika and today we are addressing a cancer that is largely preventable yet continues to claim thousands of lives every year in India. Cervical cancer remains one of the leading causes of cancer-related deaths among women in our country. Despite advances in screening, vaccination and early detection, India still reports over 1.2 lakh new cases annually. With the WHO's 90-70-90 elimination target set for 2030, the question is, are we doing enough? To help us understand where we stand and what must change, we are joined today by a distinguished expert in gynecology and preventive oncology, Dr. Priya Ganesh Kumar, who is the medical director at Sainivas Healthcare, a chain of preventive oncology centers pan-India. Welcome to the show, ma'am. It's a pleasure to have you on board with us here today.
Yeah, same here. Thank you.
So, ma'am, my first question to you is, cervical cancer is one of the few cancers that is largely preventable. Yet, India reports over 1.2 lakh new cases every year. So, where exactly are we failing? Is there awareness, screening, vaccination or access? So, what's your take on it?
In fact, cervical cancer has been, in our country perspective, awareness is somewhere we are really lacking around. And we do have a lot of myths around it as well. So awareness is definitely, but nowadays because of a lot of the social media and all that, and then HPV vaccination drive, which was launched recently by our PM Modi ji, this drive has slightly improved on awareness. But yes, awareness is really very low, and overall preventive part of health system in our country is to a minimal. That is the main thing.
That's so true, ma'am. Coming on to the next question is, cervical cancer often develops silently over years. So if a woman feels completely healthy, why should she still consider screening?
This is an overall mindset of our country population, that only when you have any problem you approach the clinician. Otherwise they really think that it is just useless and time is wasted and money is wasted for getting yourself the checking done and the preventive part being done. So HPV per se, it is we all know that cervical cancer is caused due to the persistence of human papilloma virus, which is HPV. It is the persistence. That means you have to do your screening right from beginning to understand the persistence. If I don't do a screening in the first go, or I come only once, and the screening population don't come, they feel they're apparently healthy, but it is not so. Because this cervical cancer has a preceding of 10 to 15 years of precancerous conditions, which ultimately, if not tackled with or if not understood and managed well with the local treatments, it can lead to cervical cancer. So as you rightly said, Dr. Bhumika, it's cervical cancer, it's a silent killer, a silent disease. Only when it manifests, when the cervical cancer comes up, then it might have symptoms like intermenstrual bleeding or postcoital bleeding or postmenopausal bleeding. But otherwise, it's silent. Yeah.
Noted, ma'am. So coming on to the screening part, many women avoid screening because of fear, embarrassment or misinformation in India. So what are the most common myths about cervical cancer and HPV that you encounter in your day-to-day practice?
So the first thing is the quote that human papilloma virus HPV is a sexually transmitted disease. This itself is a biggest myth. People don't want to deal with STIs. They can deal with anything else, but this is something very a taboo, a social taboo, sort of it's not acceptable sort of a thing in the society. And because of this, what happens is people fear to come to a doctor, stating that if I am detected, say something HPV positive, will I be related to promiscuity? Will I be connected to cancer? So if I'm not having any problem, why do I have to relate and go to a doctor and get myself screened? So that's the biggest myth. And another thing is, which I've been dealing in my for 3.5 decades of practice, is whenever we are talking to a patient, talking about a test like HPV, the first thing which I put into their brain is, even before taking up a test, that See, it is due to agreed that it is due to sexual no activity, but an HPV need not have a penetrative sex also. That's something which we have to understand. Intimate skin to skin contact also has HPV. Second thing, you do not have to have multiple partners. With a single partner, it has been shown, proven in a Canadian study that it was a university study, and then one-to-one partner was there, and they were trying to understand HPV. So around 50% of the girls developed HPV even with a single partner. So that's one myth. And then is cancer. Oh, HPV ho gaya, so there will be cancer. It's not so. It's a simple virus. It also has a time limit of, say, 1 year. Within a year, a good immunity power, HPV is thrown away from the body. Your immunity system throws it away. It's like any virus, like COVID or influenza virus. But only thing is, if it is persisting, it is going to cause certain changes in the cells which are precancerous. They are not cancer. So it is a boon, I would say, to everybody, the audience who are watching this podcast, that it is a boon that if you can understand that if you do have an HPV or you do not have an HPV on screening, if you do have an HPV, don't worry, because the next step is you're at least notified, and then you're doing certain tests which are very simple tests like colposcopy, and you're trying to understand whether you have any precancerous condition which is otherwise silent, otherwise not manifested, or only you put certain solutions, some acid whiteness comes up, you take a biopsy, you understand it's precancerous. Treatments are extremely simple and nobody goes into a cancer. And for the people who are HPV negative, brilliant. 5 to 10 years, you don't have to really put your head onto this subject. So it's like that, yeah.
So that was very informative, ma'am. You addressed some very common myths here. So we're hearing that HPV DNA testing is becoming the primary screening method. How is this different from the traditional pap smear, and why is this shift important?
So now let's understand the pathophysiology of how these things develop. So HPV is a virus which comes up onto the cells. All right. 1 year, it's okay. 1 year, it's like becoming negative. Now, then if it is persisting, the cells are getting turned towards precancerous conditions, which is then picked up by pap test. Okay. That means, and again, pap it's a subjective test. Second thing, its sensitivity is very low. That means if pap, it's to the tune of 40%, can you believe it? It's to the tune of 40%, and it's a proven thing. It's nothing like new thing for anyone. So what's happening? 40% if it is false negative. And if a patient of ours comes up with a pap NILM and she does have some problem still, can you then trust only on the pap test? You cannot, right? Because she has complaints. And whereas, now this is for the complaint population. Now come up to the screening population. Many times, as I told you, Dr. Bhumika, 40% is false negative. That means you can't totally rely on it. Whereas in HPV, the sensitivity of the HPV is to the tune of 92 to 93%. High sensitive test. And it is directly connected to the cause. The cause of cervical cancer, around 99.7% is the persistence of HPV. So if it is directly, if I am able to sort of understand the cause itself rather than dealing with the cellular changes once the cause comes up, then what is more preferable? The preferable is to notify the cause. And if the cause itself is not there, then the, as WHO said, at least twice in a lifetime, if you do a high performance test, that's a sensitive test. So what does a sensitive test do? It actually collates all the possible positives. Now, another thing, having an HPV doesn't mean cancer. Please understand. It is the persistence of HPV. That means we are just identifying the risk population. That's all. So if you know the risk population and then you do certain tests like pap test or VIA or colposcopy, then you understand truly does that some changes have come or not. So that is why WHO also recommends screening with a high sensitive test. That's HPV test.
Right, ma'am. So as we now know that WHO has set a 90-70-90 target to eliminate cervical cancer by 2030, do you believe India is realistically on track, and what must change immediately?
Since I've been working in this space for about now 3.5 decades, and have worked with HPV vaccination. I was the national convener. We just sort of this March we are finishing that IMA project also, and also we have worked with the screening. So what I've seen in almost all the area, I'll say you the myths are amongst two populations. One, let's say now talk about the general population. Now what happens with the general population? First of all, a fear factor is there. Too much of a fear factor. Accessibility is also very less. So they don't know where to whom to approach. Okay, I'm hearing about it. Social medias are banging on so many of the, nowadays so many people are talking about HPV and all that. But authenticity of that, whom to approach. So accessibility is the biggest problem. And especially when you talk about these rural areas, to go to the right clinic which is offering you an HPV test or the right methodology and who is the person to be approached. So that's a fear factor. Second fear factor, I am healthy. I go and I open a Pandora box for myself, and then why am I putting myself all into headache onto this? Third myth, they think cervical cancer, it's like any hereditary cancer, like a breast cancer and all that. So what do they understand? They understand that my parents, I mean my mother, in my family, I don't have a trend of having a cervical cancer, so I will not be getting it. And the fourth main thing is affordability. Like, when you ask them to do a test, an HPV test, of course it is going to, charge. It's not a free of cost for them. So today I am healthy. Why am I spending this few, it's around say 1200 to 1500 might be the cost. Why am I even spending on that test when it is healthy? And then when they come to people like us, like, clinicians, and they will say, "Man, dekh kar batao na, just look and tell me, like, is my cervix healthy?" The one thing to understand is, virus cannot be seen by naked eyes. You will have to get yourself tested. And I keep on telling my clientele that when you're doing a diabetic testing, you understand your diabetes only when you did the test. You understand your hypothyroidism only when you went through the test. So similarly, just by looking into the cervix, I'm not going to understand whether you're infected by HPV or not. You will have to do a testing. So for this, absolutely for this, the best part which came up was self-sampling. That's one of the best thing which has occurred to us. Self-sampling gives the ease of collection at their own house. Now they can go to the, and I feel more now is, we're all talking about vaccination. I'm so happy about it. We have been onto this space for talking about vaccination, and as a master trainer for MP government also, I had designed certain training programs, TOT programs to make the aware of healthcare providers, because another space what I've understood as a mentor for around so many around 2,500 doctors have taken training from me, and I'm mentor to many of the healthcare providers. Even today, I feel there is a big gray area even in our physicians, because HPV positive, what next? That's the biggest challenge I feel. And that's exactly the reason, as a trainer in IARC or a Foxy trainer, we have been conducting a lot of fellowship programs for our healthcare providers. This space of preventive oncology has not been addressed to that extent, which otherwise an IVF specialist would have created a space for themselves. You can understand laparoscopics have become a real, robotics have become that level. But preventive oncology, colposcopy, this space still has a huge scope for the healthcare providers to take it up onto their pen, onto their day-to-day practice. And hence, the patients are also a little bit nervous. I mean, a lady, she's HPV positive. She doesn't know which doctor to approach, because the doctor might say, you remove the uterus. No, what's the big point of keeping the uterus? So these things have to go away also, I feel. But that era is coming up. Way back in 2005, in 2000 and all, not many people were talking, but now I see a trend changing, even in the healthcare providers, and even grassroots level healthcare providers are picking it up. So yeah, that's the change which I'm seeing, but there is a lot of things still yet to be done.
Let's discuss now a little bit about your book. So your book incorporates ASCCP 2019, WHO and FOGSI 2023 guidelines. How does the shift toward risk-based management and HPV DNA primary screening change real-world clinical practice in India, particularly in Tier 2 and Tier 3 settings? Also tell us more about this book.
Yeah. So the first edition came in 2015, and then there has been editions. And now this 2023, we had our third edition. I had penned it down. So what I have, the book gives a understanding about how to tackle cases. Number one. Number two, how to see from the broader perspective. Number three, how to incorporate these things, the clinical practices into your day-to-day practice. That's extremely important. So now what happens is, only and only when we give a case-based discussions, there is going to be a total paradigm shift that, oh, this is also possible. So when they come to our courses and when they read through the book, and then there is a lot of cases, real cases being given, how they've been following up, understanding dawns. Because now so far there is an ignorance, and they feel that the only way to go ahead is only hysterectomy. What else I know? I don't see any of the alternative pathways. So where will I go to? Because I've been doing hysterectomy for long, I don't know about it. So I'm comfortable talking about it. But definitely, one thing to understand is hysterectomy is not the answer for the precancerous conditions. They might be for cancerous conditions, but not for precancerous conditions. So definitely this book and ASCCP 2019, we have included all the guidelines. Now, what are the differences in these guidelines? Let's understand it. ASCCP 2019 guidelines gives us a specific understanding of risk management, case-based risk management. That is, what? Like they ask, what is the risk of developing CIN3? Okay, so they will then, that is because of the large trial which went through, that's called as Kaiser-Permeate Californian trial, which took place for 1.5 million women. And with that, they came to know, so the risk of developing CIN3+, if it is more than 4%, then they go for colposcopy. If it is between, say, 25 to 59%, then they can go for colposcopy biopsy, or they can do an expedite treatment there and then give it for biopsy. If it is more than 60%, they can do an expedite treatment, has to be done. So the management itself has now shifted. It is shifted in such a way that the understanding has widened, horizon has increased. So what are the risk-based things where you should go for a colposcopy? Initial days, colposcopy used to be done for screen positives. Like if the pap is showing something, or if HPV is positive, then they go for colposcopy. But now, the colposcopy, the indications for colposcopy has also broadened, is increased. So like now, if a patient is having repeated white discharge, okay, now what do you mean by, they have even defined that. What is a repeated white discharge? Having more than 4 times leukorrhea, white discharge, pain in abdomen related to white discharge in spite of treatment. That's number one indication for colposcopy in a year. So 4 to 5 times she has had a repeated white discharge. Even though her screen is negative, she goes in for a colposcopy. Unhealthy cervix. So now a lot of importance has been given to your speculum examination. Look into the cervix and understand whether the cervix is unhealthy or not. Our OPD is flooded. Every doctor's gynaec, a good practicing gynec's OPD, will be not less than, I'll tell you, 60 to 70% would be of white discharge, leukorrhea, pain in abdomen. So the ambit of doing a colposcopy and doing this HPV test along with pap test has really increased. So, and then they have also spoken about, say, HPV positive, say 16 positive, and then with the pap HSIL, they go straight in for, expedite treatment of the cervix. So that goes with, excisional methods. So this gives me, as a clinician, an opportunity to straight away take the patient for colposcopy. She's fitting into all these things. I'm taking her for a colposcopy and I am doing a let's there and then excisional method, giving it for my reporting. I'm not wasting my time because the patient, I cannot expect the patient to come time and again, time and again. So that's one thing which has increased in our understanding. Secondly, when you come to WHO, now, so ASCP is totally on risk-based management of precancerous conditions. Yeah. And again, it's added up to follow-up. Let's not forget that. It's a very important chapter. Even if you have treated a precancerous conditions, it's extremely important to keep them under follow-up. Now, what helps a clinician to understand that the patient has been completely treated? If our HPV is becoming negative, so that's a test of cure. So a lot of importance has been given for the test of cure with an HPV test. And of course, even co-test can be added. What is co-test? Combined test is adding pap test to that HPV test. So if you have an HPV test becoming negative post your treatment at say 12 months, then they have said one beautiful understanding about how to do follow-ups. So the latest 2019 guidelines tells us every year HPV, this is I'm telling about post-treatment, okay? So they say every year you have a HPV test till 10 years. And then for the rest of the 15 years, that is 25 years, okay? Now 25 years of follow-up. So for every year till 10 years. And post that for 15 years, you will do every 3 years HPV testing. You can add PAP along with it. What is the understanding behind this much of intensive screening or intensive follow-up? There have been cases that in spite of treatment of precancerous conditions for high-grade lesions and all, especially for high-grade lesions, there have been sometimes a recurrence also. So then we catch it up at the earliest, so the treatment becomes more simpler. Now talk about WHO. Now WHO is mainly a screening, and it's mainly for LMIC countries, especially for an LMIC countries. And there the formula which they have given is, you do an HPV test. So they came up now with fantastic understanding. Screen and treat algorithm, screen, triage and treat algorithm. WHO talks about screening with, so if you're going to do a screen and treat, that is at a single visit approach, SVA. In a single visit approach, either you're in a camp, you're doing a VIA, treating there. But here now a superb understanding has come up. You do a HPV as a screening method. Use a validated platform. This is very important. You just can't use any other platform. So there are a set of HPV tests which are validated by WHO, which has gone through the validation. These are the only tests you have to use if you have to do single visit approach with HPV test. So if you're doing an HPV test and if they found to be positive on HPV, you can do treatment depending on the SCJ. So that's the science a little bit more beyond, I'm just saying. If it is TZ1, 2 and all, you can till 1 and 2 where your SCJ is completely seen, you can do an ablative method of the transformation zone. If it is TZ3, you will do an excisional methods. Now the question arises, do we have to see lesion? I'm telling about single visit approach. I've yet not told about screen, triage and treat. So in a single visit screen and treat method, you have done an HPV test. She has come to you with an HPV positive with a validated platform. You are taking the patient, ascertaining where the new SCJ is, and you are treating the transformation zone, which is the risky zone, which is the zone where HPV is lodged. That's it. Here you're not trying to dig out whether the lesion is there or not there. Leave that for triaging methods. So this algorithm can be utilized for cases who are query, will they come back to you or not? Will they be onto your follow-up or not? For them. So once you're treated, you're going to call them now only after 1 year, and then keep them up into regular follow-up of 5 a year HPV test till 20 years. That's your screen and treat single visit approach. Now, when you talk about screen, triage and treat method, that is, you have done one HPV test with a validated, it's a sensitive test. You have taken up all the positives, maybe true or false positives, and you're applied a specific test to remove the true negatives out. That means what you're dealing with is a cohort of only true positives. So then they said that, okay, you triage, and that's exactly what we have brought in FOXY GCPR 2023. In 2023, also we have designed this in such a way, If you look into the algorithm which we have brought, and fortunately I was leading the team while getting this Foxy GCPR 2023. So our team came up with a beautiful, only 3 algorithms, easy to understand. HPV test, you have done a primary test, you can triage it with genotyping. 16-18 positive, you can go in for directly for treatment, colposcopy and treatment. Non-16 and 18 on your genotyping, then can be further understood. You do a VIAC whether there is a treatment, any lesion, no lesion. Now the patient comes for her HPV test only after 2 years. So it's lengthened, the follow-up is lengthened. Otherwise, you do a PAP test, PAP is NILM, you can straight away tell the patient to come only after 2 years. So you don't have to keep them one year. But if it is 16-18 positive, then you're going straight. Or if cytology is ascus and above, or VI is positive, colpo positive, you're taking up for treatment. So this is exactly how each algorithm has its own understanding when put forward in that particular, the population which we are catering to. So that's what we have actually even brought about, that Foxy GCPR. It's really brilliant. In Foxy GCPR, there are only good resource setting, what will you do? Low resource setting, what will you do? Everywhere HPV is there. So that's exactly how. And WHO has stated one thing. If you want to do an HPV for screening, you can even do twice in a lifetime, 35 years and 45 years. More than enough. So these are the things which are advanced in this era.
That was very systematically explained, ma'am. So now moving on to the last question. If you could give one message to every woman in India today about cervical cancer prevention, what would it be?
Before giving the message to women, I would take this platform, the advantage of this platform, to even mention one very important thing for the policy makers as well, and administrators and policy makers too. Why not introduce HPV as a primary screening methodology while taking up an insurance policy, say? So this is a policy level approach, but I think it's high time that our policy makers think about it. While giving a new insurance policy or renewal of the insurance policy, why not take an HPV screening as a test methodology? Because if you do that, then your treatment for cancer, that much of an economy is saved. Why can't we understand that? So that's one thing which I wanted to bring about for the policymakers, and again, now government officials. Again, one thing which I really wanted to, I've been telling this for past, when that Aadhaar card was, they had started that Aadhaar card, Nilkarni, Mr. Nilkarni and our, it came up as this thing, policy, that each and every citizen of India should have an Aadhaar card as your UID, unique ID. Why not link it up, because we do have those portals. Of course, I know Arogyam portals are there. Have an HPV test as a test for them. So this is exactly how UK, they work. Yeah, how does UK work is they do have this proper, platform where every 3 yearly they are being invited to get their screening done yearly, 3 yearly. Their policy keeps on changing. So that's their national policy. So I think our government also, now I'm very happy that HPV vaccination has come up. There's one brilliant thing they have taken up. Unfortunately, screening in our country is still only, when they're talking about 70%, 90% of vaccination to be covered for the age below 15 years, 70% for women to get screened at least twice in a lifetime, 70%, okay, and 90% of the treatment of precancerous, cancerous conditions. Let me tell you, Dr. Bhumika, it's in our country, it's a real this thing is, for our vaccination, now I'll bet that will increase because of this drive, but till now it's 0.1%. And when you talk about screening, it's just less than 2%, okay, and treatment is around 10%. So our most of the economy is going towards treatment of the cancerous conditions, whilst we have wonderful technique, wonderful science behind the precancerous conditions, which can be easily tackled. So my advice to my the audience would be, don't get scared. Please go to your doctor, get at least every 5 years one test, which is an HPV test from the age of 30 years. Tell to your talk about the healthy signs. Talk about this to your friends and kids and kins, and tell them that, hey champ, I have got my HPV test done, have you? Speak loud. Don't get scared about an HPV. HPV means not promiscuity. HPV means not that typical STIs. Don't know quotations to that STIs, okay? And HPV means not a cancer. Even if you have an HPV, this thing, it is rather, I would say, it's a blessing in disguise that you came to know that there is certain high risk with me, and then I can easily rectify it. So vaccinate your girls, get yourself screened. Even if you come as a precancerous conditions, do not run to remove the uterus. Okay, because if you're HPV positive and you have a precancerous conditions, you might think that removing the uterus is once for all, just remove it out. But you also have to know that HPV can remain back onto your vagina, and you'll have to go for a follow-up, even though you have removed the uterus. Even after, say, you will have to be with your doctor for particularly 2 decades. So it's always best that get your checkup done even when you're healthy. Otherwise, you will any which way go to a doctor, but you're healthy, you have to know all these things.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable time and insights. Thank you so much for speaking to Medical Dialogues.